Rob, when you scrimmage Bayport and Fond du Lac, two other D1 schools, how beneficial is that a week before you start?
The scrimmage has a lot of purposes. First of all, you got to figure out maybe a couple spots. Who's going to be the starters for that week one, and the part that's important about that is you're going to see who responds with live bullets. In practice, a lot of guys look good, at times, but when you're out here, when it's a new opponent, everything matters how they're going to respond. So you get a good indication who's going to be able to help you on Friday night. The second thing is scrimmage. Basically, you want to be physical. I think that's another thing that we always look for, see if we're going to mix it up. And so we did some good things today, but we have some things to work on.
Last year you had a really good passing offense with Nate and Courtney coming out of the backfield. And what's the plan now to replace that? How do you do that?
Well, those guys were unique athletes and pretty special athletes, so we're going to probably be a little bit different this year. But our offensive line, we played some young guys last year, so we're going to be a little bit more experienced. We'd like to be a little bit more physical up front and be able to control the line of scrimmage. But at the same time, we have some pretty good athletes on the outside that are returning this year. Isaac Bartholomew was one of our starters last year, and our JV tailback, we worked on one of the other slots. Dan Rothbauer was probably rushed for over 1,000 yards as a sophomore last year. So you still have some pretty good weapons there. It's just a matter of getting the quarterback some experience. He's going to be different than Nate, but at the same time, you prepare them and try to put them in situations where they can be successful. And my brother, the offensive coordinator, does a real good job of that.
Who is the starter for quarterback?
Tanner Shue.
Okay.
So he's a senior quarterback this year, and we're excited about what he can do. He really played well today, so we're pleased with his development.
A couple other things. Everyone's going to look at the DFA North and pinpoint two teams. I'm sure as a coach there's a few other that you think about, but is there another team besides you and Kimberly that kind of you have your eye on right now that you got to really look for?
Well, I think DC Everest returned some real good skill players from last year. They got to replace quite a few guys on defense and offensive line. But I think they're going to be a pretty good offensive team this year, so we'll have our hands full there. And Wausau West is a team who I think is really well coached. And they had some young kids playing last year, so I can see them making maybe a surprise improvement from last year. But I think those are probably the two teams that will challenge the most. And we got DC Everest our first game conference-wise, so we'll find that out real fast.
One other thing, what's defensively when you have a kid like Knightsky lining up for you? How much better does that make you, just instantly having a kid like that?
Well, he's a special kid. He can control that side of the line of scrimmage. So everybody around him should be a step faster and a step quicker just because of his ability to do some things up front. We always talk about controlling the line of scrimmage. And if you have one guy, hopefully we got some other guys that can do the same thing. That's a good starting point for your defense.